She walked into that luxury store with months of savings, ready to buy one small dream. The saleswomen laughed at her worn shoes, called her a window shopper who didn't belong. She was turning to leave in shame when the doors opened and her mafia boss husband stepped inside, the man who owned half the city and all of its shadows. The glass doors of Meridian and Company whispered shut behind Clara Evans, sealing her inside a world that smelled like money, leather, vanilla candles, and something she couldn't name but knew cost more than her monthly rent. She shouldn't be here. The rational part of her brain screamed it with every step her worn keds took across the marble floor. But today was different. Today marked 3 years since the accident that took her sister, and Clara had promised herself something, one beautiful thing. Just one. Something that wasn't secondhand or practical or chosen because it was on sale. The handbag sat in the center display like a jewel under glass. Caramel-colored leather, simple lines, nothing flashy. It cost $1,200, exactly what she'd saved, dollar by dollar, from her job managing the books at Riley's hardware store. "May I help you?" The voice came from behind, sharp as a paper cut. Clara turned to find a saleswoman in her 20s, blonde hair pulled back, so tight it looked painful, her smile not reaching her eyes. "I'd like to see that one, please." Clara pointed at the handbag. The woman's gaze traveled down Clara's body, her faded jeans, the cotton blouse she'd ironed twice that morning, the shoes with the small scuff on the left toe. "That's part of our premium collection." "I know. I'd still like to see it." A second saleswoman drifted over, brunette, older, with the same predatory assessment in her eyes. They exchanged a look Clara had seen before, the kind that made decisions about people in half a heartbeat. "Sweetheart," the brunette said, her tone dripping with false sweetness, "maybe I can show you something more budget-friendly? We have some lovely pieces on the clearance rack in the back." Heat crept up Clara's neck. "I'm not looking for clearance. I'm looking at that bag." The blonde laughed, a small, nasty sound. "Right. And I'm looking at a yacht in the harbor. Looking is free, after all." "Excuse me? Come on," the brunette folded her arms. "We can spot a window shopper from across the street. You're just going to take pictures for Instagram or whatever, waste our time, then leave without buying anything. We have real customers coming in." Clara's hands trembled slightly. She'd faced worse than this. Buried her parents when she was 22, raised her baby sister alone, watched that same sister die 3 years ago from a drunk driver who got 6 months and a fine. 2 snobby saleswomen were nothing. But it still hurt. "I have the money," Clara said quietly, reaching for her wallet. The blonde held up a manicured hand. "Honey, even if you scrape together enough cash selling plasma or whatever, this bag isn't for you. It's for women who drive here in cars that cost what you make in 5 years. Women who belong." The words hit like a slap. Clara stood frozen, her wallet half open, her sister's photo visible in the clear pocket, Lily, age 19, grinning at the beach, 3 months before she died. She'd promised Lily, in those final moments in the hospital, that she wouldn't shrink anymore, wouldn't apologize for taking up space, wouldn't let the world convince her she was less than anyone else. But standing here, under the cold lights and colder stares, Clara felt small again. "You're right," she heard herself say. "I'm sorry for wasting your time." She turned toward the door, her eyes burning but refusing to let tears fall. Not here. Not in front of them. She was 3 steps from the exit when she heard it, the low rumble of an engine outside, the kind that made the glass vibrate slightly. Through the window, she saw a black Mercedes pull up to the curb. Not just any Mercedes, the kind with privacy glass, so dark it looked like a hole in the world. The driver's door opened first. A man in a gray suit emerged, built like he ate iron for breakfast. He opened the rear passenger door with the precision of a soldier. Clara's hand froze on the door handle. Adrian Lucero stepped out onto the sidewalk. Her husband moved like water, smooth, inevitable, dangerous if you didn't respect it. His charcoal suit was probably worth more than everything in her closet combined, but He wore it like he'd been born in it. Dark hair touched with gray at the temples, olive skin, and eyes so dark they looked black from a distance. He saw her through the window. Their eyes met. His expression didn't change. Adrian never showed emotion in public, but something flickered there. A question. Clara shook her head slightly. It's nothing.
I'm fine.
But Adrian knew her better than anyone alive. He'd known her for 7 years, married her for 5, and he could read her silence like other people read books. He walked toward the boutique door. Behind her, Clara heard the blonde saleswoman's voice drop to a whisper. Oh my God, is that? Shut up, the brunette hissed. Just act normal. The glass doors opened. Adrian stepped inside, bringing with him the smell of expensive cologne and something else, power, maybe, or danger, or both. His bodyguard remained outside, a silent shadow by the car. Clara. Adrian's voice was warm when he said her name, the only warmth he ever showed anyone. I thought you were meeting me at lunch. I was just, she gestured vaguely. Just looking. His gaze swept the store, landing on the handbag in the display, then moving to the 2 saleswomen who had gone very, very still. Looking at what? He asked, though Clara suspected he already knew. Before she could answer, the brunette lurched forward, her entire demeanor transformed. Mr. Lucero, what an honor. We weren't expecting, we're so pleased. Adrian's eyes cut to her. He didn't raise his voice.
Didn't need to.
Who's the manager? The silence that followed was absolute. The manager materialized from the back office, like a rabbit sensing a wolf. Richard Hammond was 50-something, with a comb-over that fooled no one and sweat already beading on his upper lip. Mr. Lucero, sir, what a pleasant surprise. The ownership ledger. Adrian's voice remained conversational, almost pleasant. That was the terrifying part. Clara had learned years ago that the quieter Adrian got, the more dangerous he became. I'd like to see it, please. Hammond's face went from red to white in under a second. I'm not sure I understand. The document that shows who owns this boutique. I believe it's public record for incorporated businesses. Should I have my lawyer request it, or will you save us both time? The blonde saleswoman made a small sound, something between a gasp and a whimper. Hammond disappeared into his office and returned moments later with a leather portfolio, his hands shaking so badly the pages rustled. He laid it on the glass counter, like an offering at an altar. Adrian flipped it open. His finger traced down a page, then another. Clara watched his jaw tighten almost imperceptibly, a tell only she would catch. Meridian and Company, subsidiary of Belmore Holdings, Adrian read aloud. Belmore Holdings, acquired in 2019 by Lucero Investments. He looked up, his dark eyes landing on each woman in turn. My company. I own 42% of this boutique. The brunette's face drained of color. The blonde grabbed the counter for support. I see we have a problem, Adrian continued, his tone still maddeningly calm. You see, the woman you just called a window shopper? The woman you suggested sell plasma to afford a handbag? The woman you told didn't belong? He paused, letting the silence stretch like a blade. That's my wife. Hammond looked like he might vomit on his own shoes. Mr. Lucero, I assure you, this is a complete misunderstanding. No misunderstanding. Adrian closed the ledger with a soft thump. I heard every word from outside. Something about how she doesn't drive the right kind of car, doesn't belong. The blonde found her voice, thin and desperate. Sir, we didn't know. That she was my wife? Adrian tilted his head slightly. So you treat all your customers like garbage, just not the ones married to men like me? That's not. The brunette was crying now, mascara tracking down her cheeks. Please, Mr. Lucero, we need these jobs. I have student loans. You should have thought about that before humiliating someone for the crime of not looking wealthy enough, he turned to Hammond. Fire them.
Both.
Effective immediately. Yes, sir. Of course, sir. Wait. The blonde stumbled forward. Please, you can't. This is our livelihood. Adrian reached into his jacket and withdrew a checkbook, the expensive kind that looked more like leather stationery than banking material. He wrote quickly, his pen scratching across 2 checks. He tore them out and placed them on the counter. 3 months severance each. Double what you're legally owed. He met their eyes, and Clara saw something in his expression that made her stomach twist. Not anger, but something colder. Finality. Consider yourselves lucky. I'm in a generous mood. The blonde stared at the check, her hands hovering over it but not touching, as if it might burn her. Take them and leave, Adrian said softly. Before I change my mind about the generous part. They took the checks. They left. The door whispered shut behind them, and Clara felt like she could breathe again, but the air tasted wrong, metallic and sharp. Adrian turned to Hammond. The handbag my wife was looking at. Wrap it. Of course, Mr. Lucero, right away, and please, let me offer our deepest. Just wrap it. Hammond's hands shook so badly he could barely manage the tissue paper. Clara watched him fumble with ribbon, his career probably flashing before his eyes. When he finished, he pushed the elegant box across the counter. No charge, of course, Mr. Lucero. Compliments of. Charge me. Adrian pulled out a credit card, black and heavy as a weapon. My wife saved for this. She'll pay for it herself. He looked at Clara then, really looked at her, and she saw the question there. Is this okay?
Did I do the right thing?
She didn't know how to answer. Adrian placed the card back in his wallet, took the shopping bag, and offered Clara his arm. Shall we? She took it because her legs felt unsteady, and because somewhere in the confusion of the last 5 minutes, she'd forgotten how to do anything else. Outside, the autumn sun was too bright, too cheerful for what had just happened. Adrian's bodyguard opened the car door. Clara slid into the leather interior that smelled like luxury and secrets. Adrian settled beside her as the car pulled away from the curb. He placed the shopping bag at her lap. Your handbag. Clara stared at it. The beautiful caramel leather she'd dreamed about for months. The one perfect thing she'd promised herself. It felt like ashes in her hands. Adrian, she said quietly, you didn't have to humiliate them. They humiliated you first. 2 wrongs. Don't make a right? He laughed, but there was no humor in it. Clara, in my world, if someone disrespects you, there are consequences. Otherwise, everyone thinks you're weak. I don't live in your world. She looked at him, this man she loved and feared in equal measure. I live in the real one, where people lose jobs and can't pay rent and treat good people like dirt because of how they dress. His voice hardened. I won't apologize for protecting you. The car glided through traffic, silent except for the hum of the engine. Clara clutched the shopping bag, this symbol of everything wrong between them, his power, her vulnerability, the chasm that love kept trying to bridge, but never quite could. Take me home, she whispered. Adrian nodded to the driver. Neither of them spoke for the rest of the ride. The penthouse was quiet when they arrived, 40 floors above the city noise. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed Chicago like a painting, the lake stretching endlessly blue, the skyline sharp against the autumn sky. Clara had once thought this view was beautiful. Now it just felt like living in a glass cage. She set the shopping bag on the marble kitchen counter and walked to the window, arms wrapped around herself. Adrian poured 2 glasses of wine. Expensive, probably. Everything in this place was expensive. She heard his footsteps approach, felt him stop just behind her. Clara. Those women had names, she said to the glass. The blonde one, I saw her name tag before you came in. Jessica. Jessica something. I don't care what her name was. I know. That's the problem, she turned to face him. You fired 2 people today. Ended their careers. Made them cry. And you don't even care what their names were. Adrian's jaw tightened. They made you cry. I wasn't crying. You were about to. He set the wine glasses down hard enough that red sloshed over the rim of one. Don't lie to me, Clara. I know you. I saw your face. So what? Her voice rose despite herself. So, someone was rude to me? So I had a bad day? That means you get to destroy their lives. I didn't destroy anything. I gave them 3 months' pay. You humiliated them. Clara pressed her palms to her temples. You made them beg. You made that manager grovel. You turned a bad situation into something worse, and you don't even see it. What I see, Adrian said slowly, is my wife being treated like garbage in a store I own. What I see is 2 women who judged you based on your shoes and decided you weren't worthy of basic human decency. What exactly should I have done, Clara? Smiled and walked away. Yes. The word burst out of her. Yes, Adrian. That's exactly what you should have done. Because I'm not made of glass. I don't need you to fight every battle for me. I don't need. She stopped, the words catching in her throat. What? He stepped closer. You don't need what? This, she gestured at the penthouse at him, at everything. I didn't marry your shadow, Adrian. I didn't marry the man who walks into rooms and makes people shake. I married the guy who burned pasta at 2 in the morning because he was trying to surprise me with dinner. The guy who laughed when I beat him at Scrabble. The guy who held me when Lily died and didn't say anything, just held me until I could breathe again. Adrian's expression shifted, something cracking behind his careful control. I'm still that man. Are you? Clara moved to the counter, picked up the shopping bag, held it like evidence. That man wouldn't have used his power to crush 2 retail workers. That man wouldn't have, she paused, the truth rising like bile. That man wouldn't have made me feel like I can't survive in the world without him. That's not fair. Isn't it? She met his eyes. How many times have you fixed things for me, Adrian? How many problems have disappeared because you made a phone call? That parking ticket last month, did the city really make a mistake? Or did you make it go away? My landlord, before we got married, the one who tried to evict me, did he really just change his mind? Silence. I thought so. Clara set the bag down. I can't live like this. In this world where nothing touches me because you've wrapped me in money and fear. Where people treat me like crystal because I'm married to. She stopped, the words bitter on her tongue. Say it, Adrian said quietly. Married to what everyone knows you are, she forced herself to look at him. Crime in a suit. That's what Lily called it before she died. She asked me if I knew what you really did, what your investments really meant. And what did you tell her? I told her I loved you, Clara's voice broke. I told her you were good to me, that you made me happy, that whatever else you were didn't matter, because you kept that part separate. But it's not separate, is it? It's right here, in every room, in every decision. You can't just be Adrian. You have to be Adrian Lucero, the man who owns things and destroys people who cross him. Adrian stood perfectly still, his face unreadable. Then, slowly, he sat down on one of the bar stools, his shoulders dropping in a way she'd never seen. What do you want me to do? His voice was barely audible. Clara walked over, stood in front of him. Get out. Out of the penthouse. Out of the life. She took his hands, cold and strong in hers. Find a way out, Adrian. Please. Before it swallows both of us whole. You don't know what you're asking, he looked up at her, and for the first time since she'd known him, Adrian Lucero looked afraid. Men like me don't retire. We don't just walk away. Then find a way to run, she squeezed his hands. Because I can't do this anymore. I can't be the reason people lose their jobs. I can't sleep in a bed bought with money, from God knows where. I can't, her voice cracked. I can't watch you become more shadow than man. Adrian pulled her close, buried his face against her stomach. She felt him shaking slightly, this powerful man who never showed weakness to anyone but her. If I do this, he whispered, if I try to get out, it won't be clean. It won't be easy. There will be consequences. I know. People will push back. Dangerous people. I know. He looked up at her. You could get hurt. I'm already hurt. Clara touched his face, felt the stubble rough against her palm. At least this way, we'd be hurting for something that matters. Adrian closed his eyes. When he opened them again, something had changed, a decision made, a line crossed. Then I'll find a way out, he said quietly. I promise. Clara wanted to believe him. God, how she wanted to believe him. But promises, she knew, were easy to make in the dark. Living up to them was another thing entirely. The Monday morning meeting started exactly as it always did. 8 men in expensive suits around a mahogany table, espresso in china cups, the kind of silence that felt like held breath. Adrian sat at the head, his fingers steepled, his face unreadable. To his right, Marcus Chun, his consigliere, reviewed documents with the careful attention of a man who'd survived 20 years in a business where most didn't make it past 10. To his left, Tony Battaglia, head of collections, built like a truck and twice as subtle. The Riverside situation, Marcus began, sliding a folder across the table. Dominic Russo is 3 months behind. 80 grand, plus interest. He stopped returning calls. Tony cracked his knuckles. I can have a conversation with him. The kind he remembers. This was usually where Adrian nodded, where the machinery of his empire ground forward with inevitable, brutal efficiency. Where problems were solved with fear and pain and the occasional broken bone. Instead, Adrian said, "No." The room went still.
No.
Tony frowned. "Boss, the guy owes us." "I know what he owes." Adrian opened the folder, scanned the details. "Russo owns a restaurant, correct? Family business, 3 generations." "Yeah, but it's failing. That's why he came to us in the first place. Then we restructure the debt. Give him 12 months, reduced interest. If he can't pay, we take a percentage of the business as collateral, not his kneecaps." Marcus set down his espresso very carefully. "Adrian, with respect, that sets a precedent. If word gets out that you're going soft on collections." "I'm not going soft. I'm being smart." Adrian closed the folder. "A man with broken hands can't cook, can't run his restaurant, can't pay us back anything. But a man with hope? He'll work himself to death trying to settle his debts." The logic was sound, but everyone at the table knew that wasn't the real reason. Something had shifted in their boss, and none of them knew what to make of it. "What about the others?" Tony gestured at a stack of similar folders. "We got 15 outstanding accounts in violent collections. You want to restructure all of them? The ones that make sense." Adrian met each man's eyes in turn. "We're not animals. We're businessmen. Let's act like it." The meeting continued, but the atmosphere had changed. Adrian could feel it. Doubt, confusion, the first whispers of concern that their leader was losing his edge. Let them wonder. He'd made a promise to Clara, and Adrian Lucero kept his promises. Even if it killed him. Across town, Clara stood in front of a brick building that had seen better days. The sign above the door read Nina's Alterations in faded letters, but through the window, she could see beauty in progress, bolts of fabric in jewel tones, a vintage sewing machine, and her oldest friend bent over a dress form. Nina Lopez looked up as the bell chimed, her face breaking into a grin. "Clara, you're early." Couldn't sleep, Clara sat down to coffees and a bag of pastries. "Figured we could talk about that idea you mentioned." Nina's eyes widened. "You mean the fashion line?" "Clara, I was half joking. I don't have the money to." "What if you did?" The question hung in the air between them. Nina set down her scissors slowly, studying Clara's face. "What are you talking about?" Clara pulled out a folder. She'd learned a few things from watching Adrian over the years. "I did some research. There's a gap in the market for affordable, well-made clothing for working women. Not fast fashion garbage, but not luxury prices either. Something in between." "That's exactly what I've been saying for years, but Clara, starting a business takes $50,000, according to my projections. For initial inventory, rent on a small workshop, 3 months of operating costs, and wages for 4 seamstresses." Clara slid the folder across Nina's cluttered work table. "I want to invest in you. In this. Clean money, legal contracts, everything above board." Nina opened the folder, her hands trembling slightly as she flipped through pages of research, market analysis, business plans. "Where did you get this kind of money?" "I've been saving." It wasn't entirely true, but it wasn't entirely false either. Clara had her own accounts. Money Adrian had insisted she keep separate from his business. Money that was hers, earned from her own work before they married. The question is, are you interested? Interested. Nina laughed, a sound caught between joy and disbelief. Clara, this is my dream. But I can't take your savings. What if it fails? Then we fail together, Clara squeezed her friend's hand. But what if it doesn't? What if we actually build something good? Something that helps women who feel like they don't belong anywhere feel beautiful for once. Nina's eyes filled with tears. You're serious about this? Dead serious. Then yes. God. Yes, Nina pulled Clara into a fierce hug. When do we start? Today, Clara pulled back, smiling wider than she had in months. I found a warehouse space in Pilsen, cheap rent, good bones, near public transportation. We can look at it this afternoon. For the first time since the boutique incident, Clara felt like herself again. Not Adrian's wife. Not the woman who needed protection. Just Clara Evans, making something happen through hard work and hope instead of fear and power. She didn't notice the black sedan parked across the street, or the man inside taking photos with a telephoto lens. She didn't know that Victor Salas, one of Adrian's oldest rivals, had been watching the Lucero household for weeks, waiting for weakness. And Clara Evans, ordinary woman with extraordinary dreams, had just become the most interesting thing in Victor's crosshairs. That evening, Adrian came home to find Clara at the kitchen table, surrounded by fabric samples and sketches. Her face was animated, alive in a way he hadn't seen since before Lily died. What's all this? Hope, Clara said simply. I'm building something. With my own hands, my own money. Something clean. Adrian looked at her work, at her joy, and felt his heart crack open. You're incredible, he whispered. I learned from watching you, she said. Now I just need to do it better. He kissed her forehead, breathing in the scent of her shampoo and possibility. He didn't tell her about the resistance he'd faced that morning. Didn't mention the whispers starting among his men, the concerned looks from Marcus. He'd promised to find a way out. He was trying. He just hoped they both survived long enough to make it to the other side. 3 weeks later, Clara stood in the middle of what would become Velvet Line Workshop, watching sunlight stream through factory windows that hadn't been cleaned in years. The warehouse smelled like dust and motor oil and potential. It's perfect, Nina breathed beside her, spinning in a slow circle. Clara, it's actually perfect. Four other women stood scattered throughout the space. Maria, 62, who'd sewn wedding dresses in Mexico City before immigrating. Yuki, 28, with a degree in fashion design and $50,000 in student debt. Shanice, 35, recently divorced and desperate for a fresh start. And Patricia, 47, who'd worked in a garment factory for 20 years before it closed and moved overseas. Okay, ladies, Clara clapped her hands together. I know it doesn't look like much right now, but give us 2 weeks, and it'll be a proper workshop. Nina will handle design and training. I'll manage the business side. Our goal is simple. Make beautiful, affordable clothing that actually fits real women's bodies. And pay us fairly while doing it, Shanice added with a grin. Especially that, Clara smiled. No sweatshop wages here. You'll earn what you're worth. They spent the afternoon cleaning, planning, laughing. Maria taught them Spanish curse words for stubborn stains. Yuki played music from her phone, something upbeat and hopeful. Patricia brought homemade empanadas that they devoured while sitting on upturned crates. Clara felt something unfurl in her chest that she'd thought was dead. Purpose. Not the hollow purpose of being Adrian Lucero's wife, attending charity galas she didn't care about, smiling for cameras at fundraisers for causes his lawyers chose. This was real. This was hers. She was scrubbing a window when she heard the door open behind her. She turned, expecting Nina with more cleaning supplies. Instead, Adrian stood in the doorway, looking completely out of place in his $1,000 suit among the dust and bare concrete. The women fell silent. Adrian, Clara climbed down from her stepladder. What are you doing here? I wanted to see it. He walked slowly into the space, his eyes taking in everything. The ancient sewing machines Nina had bought at auction, the fabric samples pinned to makeshift boards, the hope hanging in the air like morning light. Your dream. Clara introduced him to everyone, watching them shift nervously, unsure how to act around a man whose reputation preceded him like a storm cloud. But Adrian surprised her. He shook each woman's hand, asked Patricia about her grandchildren, complimented Yuki's design sketches, listened carefully when Maria explained the difficulty of finding quality fabric suppliers. You're building something special here, he said to Clara, his voice soft enough that only she could hear. Something good. I'm trying. He looked around again, and she saw something in his expression she'd never seen before. Not regret exactly, but a kind of wistful recognition. You built more peace in a week than I did in 10 years. The words hit her like a punch to the chest. Clara reached for his hand, squeezed it. It's not too late for you, isn't it? But he squeezed back, holding on like she was the only thing keeping him anchored to earth. They stood like that for a moment, husband and wife, separated by choices and consequences, but connected by something stronger than both. Stay for lunch, Clara said. We're ordering pizza. Nothing fancy. Adrian smiled, his real smile, the one he saved only for her. Nothing fancy sounds perfect. They ate on the floor, 7 people sharing 5 pizzas and talking about thread counts and hem lengths and dreams that felt achievable for once. Adrian loosened his tie, rolled up his sleeves, and for an hour, he wasn't Adrian Lucero, feared businessman with shadows in his past. He was just Adrian, Clara's husband, a man who laughed at Nina's terrible jokes and helped Shanice move a heavy table without being asked. Clara watched him from across the room and felt her heart break and mend simultaneously. This was the man she'd married. He was still in there under all the armor. They just had to keep digging. Across the street, Victor Sala sat in his car, reviewing the photos his man had taken. The Lucero woman, working in a warehouse, meeting with seamstresses, building something legitimate. Interesting, he murmured to himself. His lieutenant, a scarred man named Ramos, leaned forward from the back seat. Want me to send a message? Burn it down? No. Victor tapped the photo thoughtfully. Not yet. This is better than I thought. Lucero's going soft, and now his wife is out in the open, unprotected, playing dress-up in Pilsen. She's not just his weakness anymore. She's his exposed flank. So, what's the play? Victor smiled, the expression cold as winter. Patience. We watch. We wait. We let them build their little dream. He set down the photos. And then, when they're most invested, when they've poured their hearts into it, that's when we strike. You don't break a man like Lucero by attacking his empire. You break him by destroying the things he loves. The wife. Eventually. But first, we take away her hope. We make her realize that anything she touches turns to ash because of who she married. We make her hate him. Victor started the engine. And then we take everything else. That evening, as Clara locked up the warehouse, she felt the hair on the back of her neck rise. She turned, scanning the street, but saw nothing except parked cars and evening shadows. Just paranoia, she told herself. Adrian's world making her jumpy. But as she walked to her car, Clara couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching, waiting. She checked her mirrors twice on the drive home. The black sedan followed at a careful distance, professional enough that she never noticed. The trap was being set, piece by careful piece. And Clara Evans, focused on building her dream, had no idea she was about to become bait in a war she didn't even know was starting. The call came at 3 a.m. Adrian's phone buzzed on the nightstand, vibrating with the urgency that meant trouble. Clara felt him slip out of bed, heard his voice low and hard in the darkness. When? How much? I'll be there in 20 minutes. She sat up as he dressed, the city lights casting shadows across his face. Adrian? Go back to sleep. That bad. He paused, his hand on the doorknob. The Rivera family hit 3 of our operations tonight. Took 200,000 in product and burned a warehouse in Gary, he hesitated. Words spreading that I've gone soft. They're testing boundaries. Clara pulled the blanket around herself. What are you going to do? What I have to, he left before she could ask what that meant. She didn't sleep the rest of the night. At Lucero headquarters, a legitimate-looking office building that housed very illegitimate business, Adrian faced his inner circle. Marcus stood by the window, his expression grave. Tony paced like a caged animal. 3 other men sat around the conference table, all watching Adrian with varying degrees of concern. They hit us because they think we're weak, Tony said, slamming his fist on the table. We need to hit back twice as hard. Send a message. What kind of message? Adrian asked quietly. The kind written in blood. Tony leaned forward. We know where Carlos Rivera drinks on Thursdays. We know his route home. We make an example.
No.
The word hung in the air like a sword. Boss, Marcus interjected carefully. I understand you want to change how we operate, but we're hemorrhaging respect. Last month, the Bianchis started moving into Bridgeport. Yesterday, I heard the Yakuza are sniffing around our shipping contracts. If we don't push back hard, we won't have anything left to reform. Adrian studied the table, the wood grains swirling like the mess his life had become. Clara's voice echoed in his head. Get out. Find a way out before it swallows us whole. But getting out required surviving long enough to escape. We respond, Adrian said finally, but with lawyers, not bullets. We hit their legal businesses, the restaurants, the construction companies. We audit, we investigate, we use the system against them. Tony laughed, sharp and disbelieving. The system? Boss, these guys don't care about audits. They care about fear. You show mercy, they smell blood. Then they can smell whatever they want, Adrian stood, buttoning his jacket. I'm not painting the streets red because someone decided to test me. We're businessmen, not butchers. Act accordingly. He left the room before anyone could argue further, but he heard Tony's voice carry through the door. He's going to get us all killed. Marcus caught up with him in the hallway. Adrian, wait. Adrian stopped but didn't turn around. I've known you 15 years, Marcus said quietly. Watched you build this empire from nothing. But Tony's right about one thing. If you show weakness now, they'll tear you apart. Is this really about changing the business, or is it about Clara? Adrian turned slowly. Does it matter? It matters if you're making decisions with your heart instead of your head. Marcus stepped closer, lowering his voice. I love her too, like a sister. But she doesn't understand this world. The rules here, they're written in survival. You can't just opt out. Watch me. Adrian. I'm done, Marcus. The words came out harder than intended. Done with the violence. Done with waking up wondering which of my men will betray me today. Done with being the monster under Chicago's bed. He met his oldest friend's eyes. If power means everyone fears me, then I don't want it anymore. Marcus studied him for a long moment, then nodded slowly. Then I hope you know what you're doing. Because the fall from where you're standing, it's a long way down. Clara learned about the situation from the morning news. 3 men hospitalized in Gary, a warehouse fire, police investigating possible gang activity. They didn't mention Adrian by name, but she knew. She always knew. She was at the workshop when her phone rang. Nina, voice tight with fear. Clara, don't come in today.
Why?
What happened? There are reporters outside. 3 of them with cameras. They're asking about the workshop, about our funding sources, about... Nina's voice dropped to a whisper. About whether your husband owns this building. Clara's blood went cold. Tell them nothing. I'm on my way. But when she arrived, it was worse than she'd imagined. Not just reporters, a small crowd had gathered. Someone had spray-painted across the front of the warehouse in red letters. Blood money. A reporter shoved a microphone in her face the moment she stepped out of her car. Mrs. Lucero, can you confirm that this workshop is funded by your husband's criminal enterprises? No comment. Is it true that the building is owned by a shell company linked to Adrian Lucero? I said no comment. How do you feel about employing disadvantaged women with money made from drugs and extortion? Clara pushed through them, her hands shaking, her vision tunneling. Inside, she found her women huddled together, scared and confused. Clara, Patricia said, her voice breaking, my daughter called. She saw the news. She asked if I was working for the Mafia. You're not, Clara said firmly. This workshop is clean. My investment is clean. They're trying to. Trying to what? Shanice interrupted. Tell the truth? Clara, I Googled your husband. I saw the articles. The investigations. The rumors. She grabbed her coat. I can't be part of this. I have a son. What if Children's Services sees me on the news working in a mob-funded? It's not mob-funded. But Shanice was already leaving. Yuki followed, apologizing but unwilling to stay. Within an hour, only Nina, Maria, and Patricia remained, and even they looked uncertain. Clara stood in her dream workshop, watching it crumble, and felt rage bloom in her chest like poison flowers. This was Adrian's world touching hers. This was the shadow she'd tried so hard to escape, reaching out with cold fingers to destroy everything good she tried to build. She drove home in silence, past reporters, past judgment, past hope. When Adrian came home that night, she was waiting. You promised, she said, her voice dead calm, to keep this away from me, Clara. You promised. I'm trying. You're failing, she stood, her whole body trembling. They spray-painted my workshop. My employees quit. There are reporters calling me a mob wife on the evening news. You wanted to protect me? You just made me a target. Adrian looked exhausted, defeated. I know. That's all you have to say? You know? What do you want from me, Clara? His voice cracked. I'm trying to burn it down from the inside. Trying to change. But Rome wasn't built in a day, and it won't collapse in one either. Then maybe, Clara whispered, you should burn faster. 2 days of silence stretched between them like a frozen lake, beautiful and fragile and dangerous to cross. Adrian slept in the guest room. Clara threw herself into salvaging what remained of the workshop, calling her employees, reassuring them, promising transparency she wasn't sure she could deliver. On the third night, Adrian's phone rang during dinner. He glanced at the screen, frowned, and answered. Battaglia, slow down. What do you mean gone? All of it. Clara watched the color drain from his face. I'll be there in 10 minutes, he hung up, already moving toward the door. Adrian, what? Someone hit the North Side accounts. 300,000, just vanished from secured locations. He grabbed his keys. Either we have the world's best thief, or what? Or someone on the inside is playing both sides. He kissed her forehead quickly, distracted. Don't wait up. But she did wait up, pacing the penthouse, watching the city lights blur through her exhaustion. When Adrian finally returned at 4 a.m, he looked like he'd aged 10 years. Marcus found the leak, he said, pouring himself 3 fingers of scotch. Jimmy Delgado. Been with us 8 years. Victor Salas got to him, promised him a better position, more money, protection when we fall. When you fall. Adrian drank deeply. That's what everyone's betting on now. That I've gone soft, that it's only a matter of time before someone takes what's mine. And Jimmy. Dealt with. His voice was flat, empty. Clara felt something cold settle in her stomach. Dealt with how? Does it matter? Yes, Adrian. It matters to me. He set down his glass, met her eyes. We didn't kill him, if that's what you're asking. We can't, I can't, not anymore. Marcus exiled him. Gave him 8 hours to leave Chicago and never come back. If he surfaces again, well, he trailed off. Victor will probably kill him for failing. My God, Clara sank onto the couch. This is your world? People betting on your death? Your own men selling you out. This is every world, Clara. You just don't see it in yours. He sat beside her, suddenly looking fragile. Power is a house of cards. The moment you stop defending it, it collapses. I'm trying to walk away, but they're burning the exits. She wanted to comfort him, to say it would be okay, but the words stuck in her throat. The next morning, Clara received an envelope at the workshop. No return address, delivered by courier. Inside, a cashier's check for $25,000 and a note in elegant handwriting. For Velvet Line Workshop. Keep building your dream. A friend. Nina peered over her shoulder. Who's it from? I don't know, but Clara's hands trembled as she held it. Something felt wrong. $25,000 was exactly what they needed to recover from the publicity disaster. New equipment, a PR consultant, wages while they rebuilt clientele. It was too perfect. Too convenient. She called Adrian immediately. Don't touch it, he said, his voice sharp. Don't deposit it. Don't acknowledge it. Bring it to me.
Why?
What if someone really wants to help? Clara, please. Trust me on this. She did trust him. That was the problem. That afternoon, Adrian's forensic accountant examined the check in his office while Clara paced. Counterfeit, the accountant said finally, holding it up to the light. Good work, but fake. The routing number belongs to a bank that closed 5 years ago. If you deposited this, the FBI would have been at your door within a week, asking questions about money laundering. Clara felt the room spin. Someone tried to frame me? Someone tried to connect you to illegal activity, Adrian corrected, his jaw tight. Make it look like you're knowingly accepting dirty money. They're building a case, not for court, but for public opinion. Destroy your reputation, destroy your workshop, destroy, he stopped. Destroy you, Clara finished quietly. Through me. Adrian's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, and his expression went dark. We need to leave.
Now.
What? Clara, now. He grabbed her hand and pulled her toward the private elevator. As the doors closed, Clara heard shouting in the hallway, footsteps running. In the elevator, Adrian was already making calls. Marcus, lock down the building. I don't care, do it. Scatter the files. Burn what needs burning. Yes, she's with me. Adrian, you're scaring me.
Good.
You should be scared. The elevator opened to the parking garage. His bodyguard, Luis, waited by an unmarked sedan, not the usual Mercedes. Federal agents just entered the building with warrants. Someone tipped them about the Rivera retaliation, planted evidence, linking back to me. But you didn't retaliate. Doesn't matter. Victor's been 3 steps ahead this whole time. Adrian helped her into the car. He hid our operations, turned my own man against me, tried to frame you, and now he's brought the FBI down on us. He's not just taking my territory. He's dismantling everything. The car screeched out of the garage into afternoon traffic. Clara's mind raced, trying to process. Where are we going? Safe house in Oak Park. We need time to think, to plan. Adrian pulled out his phone, started scrolling through contacts, then stopped. His face went pale. What? He turned the phone toward her. A news alert. Fire at Pilsen Warehouse. Velvet Line Workshop destroyed. Clara stared at the screen, at the photo of flames consuming her dream. The place where she'd laughed with Nina. Where Maria had taught them Spanish curse words. Where she'd built something good from nothing. No, she whispered. I'm sorry, Adrian's voice broke. Clara, I'm so... Stop, she looked at him, and for the first time since she'd met him 7 years ago, she felt something besides love. Something harder. Stop apologizing.
Stop protecting me.
Stop trying to shoulder this alone. What are you? If Victor Salas wants to destroy us, then we destroy him first, Clara's voice was steel. But we don't do it your way. We do it mine. Adrian stared at her, this woman he'd tried so hard to keep separate from his world, now diving straight into its darkest waters. You don't know what you're saying. Don't I? She met his eyes. You promised to get out. But you can't get out if you're dead or in prison.
So we end this.
We end him. And then we walk away from all of it.
How?
Clara smiled, cold and determined. The same way I was going to run my workshop. With numbers, documents, and proof. You said Victor's been 3 steps ahead? Let's make him wish he'd stayed back. For the first time in weeks, Adrian saw the woman he'd fallen in love with. Fierce, brilliant, unbreakable. Okay, he said quietly. Show me your way. The Oak Park safe house was a modest townhouse that didn't match anything in Adrian's usual world. No marble, no floor-to-ceiling windows, just beige carpet and IKEA furniture that could be abandoned at a moment's notice. Clara stood at the window, watching smoke rise in the distance from what used to be her dream. Her phone buzzed. Nina. Clara, thank God. Are you okay? The fire. Everything's gone. The machines, the fabric, all of it. Was anyone hurt? No, thank God. It happened at night. But Maria's crying, Patricia keeps asking if we're targets now, and the fire inspector is asking questions about accelerants. Nina's voice dropped. Clara, this wasn't an accident, was it? Clara closed her eyes.
No.
Who would do this? People who want to hurt my husband by hurting me. The words tasted like ash. Nina, I'm so sorry. I brought this into your life. Into all of your lives. Stop. You gave us hope, employment, a future. Some bastard with a match isn't your fault, Nina paused. What happens now? Now I fix it. Clara watched Adrian in the other room, on the phone with Marcus, his face carved from stone. I fix all of it. She hung up and walked to where Adrian had spread documents across the dining table, financial records, shipping manifests, corporate filings. The skeleton of Victor Salas's empire, pulled from public records and less than public sources. Tell me about him, Clara said. Adrian looked up, surprised. Victor? Everything. How he operates, what he cares about, where his power comes from. Adrian studied her face, then gestured to a chair. Victor Salas came up the same time I did, different territory. He runs legitimate import-export businesses as a front, electronics, luxury goods, wines. Underneath, he moves everything from drugs to stolen art. He's careful. Paranoid. Never gets his hands dirty. Family? Divorced twice. No kids. His empire is his child. Adrian pulled out a file. He owns 7 corporations, all interlocked through shell companies in Delaware and the Caymans. His flagship is Salas International Trading. Clara studied the documents, her mind working. Years of managing books at Riley's Hardware had taught her to see patterns in numbers, to spot inconsistencies. And here, in Victor's carefully constructed corporate maze, she saw something. These shipping manifests, she said slowly, pointing. The weights don't match the customs declarations. Adrian leaned closer. What do you mean? Look, container 2847, declared weight 42,000 pounds. But the bill of lading from the origin port says 68,000 pounds. That's a 26,000-pound discrepancy. She flipped through more pages, her heart racing. It's everywhere. Every shipment. The numbers are wrong. He's hiding cargo in plain sight, Adrian breathed. Declaring partial shipments to customs, keeping the rest undocumented. Not just undocumented, untaxed, uninspected, invisible. Clara grabbed a calculator, started running numbers. If we can prove systematic fraud, we can bring the IRS, Customs Enforcement, and the FBI down on him. Not for violence or murder. Those are hard to prove. But tax evasion? That's how they got Capone. Adrian stared at her like he was seeing her for the first time. You want to take down a mob boss with accounting? I want to take down a criminal with evidence. She met his eyes. Your world uses fear. Mine uses facts. Let's see which one cuts deeper. For the next 3 hours, they worked. Clara cross-referenced shipping records with customs databases Adrian's people had accessed. She built spreadsheets showing patterns of fraud spanning 5 years. She documented shell companies, traced money through corporate labyrinths, found the threads that connected Victor's legitimate business to his criminal enterprises. Adrian watched her work, occasionally offering context or connections, but mostly just observing this woman he'd married transform into something sharp and dangerous. Around midnight, Marcus arrived with food and more files. He stopped in the doorway, taking in the scene, Clara surrounded by papers, calculator in hand, looking more alive than she had in months despite the fact that her dream had literally burned down hours ago. She's building a case, Adrian said simply. Marcus set down the food. Against Salas. Against his whole operation, Adrian showed him Clara's spreadsheets. Tax fraud, customs violations, wire fraud, securities fraud. If we get this to the right people, they'll tear him apart legally, Marcus finished, understanding dawning. His assets frozen, businesses seized, associates scrambling to cut deals. He looked at Clara with something like respect. This could actually work. It will work, Clara said, her voice steady. But we need more than spreadsheets. We need primary source documents, the real shipping manifests, the actual financial records. The things he keeps hidden. Those are in his headquarters, Adrian said. Under guard, in a safe only he can access. Clara smiled, and it wasn't entirely kind. Then we need to make him open it. At that exact moment, Victor Salas sat in his penthouse, sipping expensive cognac and watching news coverage of the warehouse fire. His lieutenant, Ramos, stood nearby. The woman's workshop is destroyed, her employees scattered, and Lucero's under federal investigation, Ramos reported. We're ahead of schedule. Lucero's also disappeared, Victor noted. Him and the wife. That concerns me. You think he'll retaliate? I think a cornered animal is dangerous, even a weak one. Victor swirled his drink. Double the security. And find out where they went. I want eyes on them. What about finishing it? We could. No. Victor cut him off. We stick to the plan. Let the law destroy Lucero. Let public opinion destroy his wife. We stay clean, stay patient, he smiled. In 2 weeks, Adrian Lucero will be in federal custody, and I'll buy his empire at bankruptcy auction. But Victor Salas had made one critical mistake. He'd underestimated Clara Evans. He'd seen a modest woman in worn shoes and assumed she was weak. He'd burned her dream thinking it would break her. Instead, he'd forged her into something harder than he could have imagined. And Clara Evans, standing in a safe house surrounded by evidence and determination, was about to show him the difference between looking weak and being weak. When do we move? She asked Adrian. He looked at his wife, this extraordinary, furious, brilliant woman, and felt something he hadn't felt in years.
Hope. Tomorrow, he said.
We move tomorrow. Morning came with cold clarity. Clara woke on the safe house couch, her neck stiff, surrounded by papers. Adrian stood by the window with coffee, his phone pressed to his ear. I don't care if it's risky, Marcus. Set the meeting. Yes, with him directly. Tell him I'm ready to negotiate terms, he paused. Tell him I'm ready to surrender. Clara sat up. What are you doing? Adrian ended the call. Getting us inside his headquarters. Victor wants my territory, my operations, my contacts. If I offer to hand them over peacefully, he'll want to meet face to face. His ego won't let him refuse. That's insane. He tried to destroy us. Why would he believe you'd just surrender? Because everyone expects me to be beaten. Adrian handed her coffee. You said it yourself, I look weak. Let's use that. Clara studied him over the rim of her cup. There's more. What aren't you telling me? While we're meeting, you'll be in his building. Adrian. You said we do this your way, with documents, evidence, facts. I'm giving you access. He pulled out a blueprint of a high-rise in the Loop. Salas International Trading, 42nd floor. Victor's personal office is here. His safe is behind a painting, old school. Marcus has been gathering intel for years. You want me to break into his safe during your meeting? I want you to get the evidence we need while I keep him distracted. Adrian's expression was grave. Clara, this is dangerous. If something goes wrong, then we improvise. She stood, moving to the blueprint. How do I get in? Service elevator. Maintenance credentials. You'll pose as part of a cleaning crew, Victor's regular company. We've already arranged it. Marcus will provide the uniform and ID. And the safe. Adrian pulled out a small electronic device.
Bypass tool.
It'll crack most older safes in under 2 minutes. But Clara, if you get caught. I won't, she said it with more confidence than she felt. What happens after I get the documents? You photograph everything with this. He handed her a phone. Upload to an encrypted server Marcus controls. Then you leave, we leave, and Marcus delivers everything to the FBI, IRS, and every financial regulator in Illinois simultaneously. Victor will know it was us. By then he'll be too busy defending himself to retaliate. Adrian touched her face gently. But if anything feels wrong, if you sense danger, you walk away. The evidence isn't worth your life. Clara leaned into his palm. The evidence is our life, Adrian. Our future. Our way out. She pulled back, her jaw set. I'm doing this. 6 hours later, Clara stood in a bathroom at Union Station, transforming. She pulled her hair into a tight bun, put on glasses she didn't need, wore the gray uniform of Sparkle Commercial Cleaning Services. In the mirror, she looked ordinary, invisible.
Perfect.
Marcus met her outside, handing over an ID badge and a cleaning cart. Crew goes up at 3 o'clock. You'll have 40 minutes while the floor is mostly empty. Adrian's meeting with Victor starts at 3:15, should last at least 30 minutes. And if I need more time,
You won't get more time.
after 40 minutes, Victor's head of security does a floor sweep. Marcus gripped her shoulder. Clara, I've known Adrian a long time. I've never seen him like this, willing to risk everything, including himself. Don't make me tell him I got you killed. You won't have to. She rolled the cart through the loop at 2:45 p.m., just another invisible worker in a city full of them. The Salis International building gleamed in the afternoon sun, all glass and steel and money. Security waved her through. The ID badge worked perfectly. In the service elevator, surrounded by mops and industrial cleaner, Clara steadied her breathing. She'd never done anything like this. The most illegal thing she'd ever done was tear the tag off a mattress. Now she was about to commit corporate espionage against a mob boss. The elevator doors opened on the 42nd floor. Adrian arrived at Victor's office at precisely 3:15 p.m., flanked by Marcus and one bodyguard. Victor kept him waiting 10 minutes, a power play, showing who controlled the situation. When they finally entered, Victor sat behind a desk that probably cost more than most cars, his smile sharp as broken glass. Adrian Lucero, I heard you were ready to talk surrender, he gestured to chairs.
Seat.
Let's discuss how you're going to hand me your empire. Adrian sat, his posture deliberately defeated.
I'm tired, Victor.
The feds are closing in. My own people doubt me and my wife. He let his voice break slightly. My wife's dream burned to the ground. I can't protect her and fight you. So, I'm choosing her. How touching, Victor's eyes gleamed. What exactly are you offering? As Adrian began outlining territories and operations, his words carefully chosen to keep Victor engaged, Clara moved through the outer offices with her cleaning cart. Victor's personal office was locked, but Marcus had provided a key card cloned from a security manager's. Clara's hands shook as she swiped it. The door clicked open. Inside, the office was obscene in its luxury, art on the walls worth millions, furniture that belonged in museums. And behind a Picasso sketch, exactly where Adrian said it would be, was the safe. Clara pulled out the bypass tool, her heart hammering so loud she was sure someone would hear it. The device attached magnetically, its screen flickering to life. 2 minutes, Adrian had said. She watched the numbers crawl by. 0:15, 0:30, 0:45. In Victor's conference room, Adrian kept talking, kept Victor's attention locked on the territories he was supposedly surrendering. 1 o'clock, 1:15, 1:30. The bypass tool beeped softly. The safe clicked open. Clara pulled the door and nearly gasped. Inside weren't just documents. There were ledgers, flash drives, folders marked with corporate names she recognized from her research. This was everything. Victor's entire operation, documented and cataloged. She started photographing, her hands steady now, focused. Page after page, upload after upload. Shipping manifests showing the real cargo. Financial statements revealing the actual money flow. Communications with corrupt officials. Everything. She was on the last folder when she heard voices in the hallway. Her blood turned to ice. The voices grew closer. Someone was coming. Clara shoved the documents back into the safe, closed it, pocketed the bypass tool. She grabbed her cleaning spray and started wiping down Victor's desk, her heart threatening to explode from her chest. The door opened. Victor's head of security stood there, a mountain of a man with suspicious eyes. "Who are you?" Clara gestured to her uniform, kept her voice steady. "Cleaning service. They sent me up early." "No one's supposed to be in this office," he stepped forward. "Let me see your credentials." Clara reached for her badge, but her hand trembled. The man noticed. His hand moved toward his weapon. And Clara realized she might have just gotten herself killed. Clara's mind raced. She'd seen Adrian talk his way out of situations before, calm, confident in control. She channeled every ounce of that energy now. "Of course, sir." She held out her badge with steady hands, forcing herself to meet his eyes. "Jenny Martinez, employee 347. I started last week. They told me to clean the executive floor early because of an important meeting." The security guard examined her badge, his expression skeptical. Clara's pulse thundered in her ears. If he called down to verify, if he checked the real schedule, if he looked too closely. "The meeting's still happening," he said slowly. "You should be doing the common areas, not private offices." "You're right." "I'm so sorry." Clara grabbed her card. "My supervisor said 42. I thought she meant any office on 42. I'm still learning the protocols." She moved toward the door, fighting every instinct to run. The guard stepped aside, but she felt his eyes boring into her back. She pushed the cart into the hallway, her legs trembling. "Hey," he called. Clara stopped, her blood turning to ice. This was it. He'd figured it out. She was caught. "Next time, wait for clearance before entering executive offices." "Yes, sir." "Won't happen again." She didn't run, walked to the service elevator. Press the button. The doors took an eternity to open. She rolled inside, press lobby, and only when the doors closed did she let herself collapse against the cart, gasping. Her phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. Status. Clara typed with shaking hands. "Got everything. Coming down." In the conference room, Adrian saw Marcus glance at his phone, saw the barely perceptible nod. Relief flooded through him, but he kept his face neutral, defeated. "So we're agreed," Victor was saying, leaning back in his chair like a king on a throne. "You transfer the Bridgeport operations by Friday, introduce me to your contacts in the shipping unions, and in return, I let you walk away with your life and your pretty wife." "Agreed." Adrian stood, extending his hand. "You've won, Victor. Enjoy it." Victor shook his hand, his grip deliberately crushing. "I always win, Adrian. You just forgot the first rule. Never let love make you weak." Adrian smiled then, a real smile that made Victor's expression flicker with confusion. "Love didn't make me weak, Victor. It made me smart enough to know when I was outmatched." He left with Marcus, maintaining his defeated posture until they were in the elevator. Then his shoulders straightened. She got it all. Every document. Already uploading to secure servers, Marcus allowed himself a small smile. "Your wife is either very brave or very crazy." "Both," Adrian said. "Definitely both." Clara met them at the safe house, still in her cleaning uniform, her hands finally steady enough to hold coffee. Adrian pulled her into his arms the moment he saw her. "Never again," he whispered into her hair. "Never again, I swear." "Did it work?" She pulled back. "Do we have enough?" Marcus opened his laptop, pulled up the files Clara had photographed. His fingers flew across the keyboard, his expression growing more satisfied with each passing minute. Tax evasion, customs fraud, wire fraud, money laundering, bribery of federal officials, he whistled low. "Clara, you just handed us a federal case that'll put Salas away for 20 years minimum. His lawyers will need lawyers." "When do we release it?" Clara asked. Now, Marcus looked at Adrian. "We send it to 3 separate entities simultaneously, the FBI's Financial Crimes Division, the IRS Criminal Investigation Unit, and the Illinois Department of Revenue. By morning, Salas will wake up to frozen accounts and federal warrants.
Do it, Adrian said.
Marcus typed rapidly, attaching files, composing anonymous tips with enough detail to be credible but not enough to trace back. Sending in 3,
2,
1 inch. He hit enter. The emails flew into the digital void, carrying with them the evidence that would dismantle Victor Salas's empire. At 6:47 a.m. the next morning, Victor Salas woke to his phone exploding with calls. His lawyer, his accountant, his head of operations, all panicking. What do you mean frozen? Victor roared into the phone. On what grounds? Federal warrants, his lawyer said, his voice tight with fear. Multiple agencies, Victor. They have documentation of systematic fraud going back 5 years. Shipping manifests, financial records, communications, everything. Someone gave them everything. Victor's blood ran cold. That's impossible. Those records are in my personal safe. Well, they're in federal hands now. And, Victor? You need to get a criminal defense attorney. This isn't civil penalties. They're talking about criminal charges.
RICO statutes.
Victor hung up and immediately called his head of security. Check my office. Check the safe.
Now.
10 minutes later. Boss, the safe hasn't been tampered with. Everything looks normal. But it wasn't normal. Victor pulled up security footage from the previous day, scrolling through hours of recording. There, 3:07 p.m. A cleaning woman entering his office. She was inside for 12 minutes. He zoomed in on her face, enhanced the image, and felt his stomach drop. The glasses were different. The hair was different. But he recognized those eyes. Clara Lucero. That clever bitch, he whispered. His phone rang again. His consigliera. Boss, the feds are at Salas International. They're seizing computers, files, everything. We need to. The call cut off. Victor tried calling back. The line was dead. He tried his accountant.
Dead.
His operations manager.
Dead.
Every phone line connected to his business had been shut down. Victor Salas, who had spent 20 years building an empire, watched it collapse in real time. By noon, news vans surrounded his building. By 2 p.m., his accounts were frozen. Every dollar, every asset untouchable. By 4 p.m., federal agents knocked on his penthouse door with handcuffs. That evening, Clara watched the news with Adrian and Marcus. The reporter stood outside Salas International, breathless with the scale of the story. In what's being called one of the largest financial fraud cases in Illinois history, authorities have arrested Victor Salas, CEO of Salas International Trading. Sources say an anonymous tip provided authorities with extensive documentation of tax evasion, customs violations, and connections to organized crime. Federal prosecutors are calling it an airtight case. The reporter paused, consulting her notes. Interestingly, this case has tangential connections to Adrian Lucero, another businessman long suspected of criminal ties. However, sources indicate that the evidence against Salas may have originated from Lucero's organization, suggesting possible cooperation with authorities or an internal power struggle in Chicago's criminal underworld. Marcus muted the television. They're speculating you helped bring him down. Let them speculate, Adrian said. He looked at Clara. You did this. With spreadsheets and a cleaning cart, you took down a man who's killed dozens of people. Clara felt the weight of it settling on her shoulders. I didn't do it alone. No, Adrian agreed. But you led the way. You showed me there's more than one kind of power. The question is, Marcus said carefully, what happens now? The feds will want to talk to you eventually. Your connection to Salas, the timing. Then we give them what they want, Clara said. Both men looked at her in surprise. Adrian's been trying to get out. This is how. We cooperate. We provide information on Salas's operations, position Adrian as someone who helped bring down a criminal enterprise. That could work, Marcus said slowly. Turn you from suspect to asset. But it means giving up leverage, exposing your own vulnerabilities. I don't want leverage anymore, Adrian said quietly. I want out, whatever it takes. Clara took his hand, squeezed it. They'd won the battle. Now they just had to survive the peace. 6 weeks later, Clara stood in front of a brick storefront in Lincoln Park, watching workers hang a sign above the door. Velvet Line by Clara Evans. Not Lucero. Evans. Her name. Her dream. Rebuilt from ashes. The insurance payout from the warehouse fire had been legitimate. Nina had insisted on proper coverage from day one. Combined with settlement funds from the city for improper investigation procedures and a small business grant Clara had applied for under her maiden name, she had enough to start over. This time, though, everything was different. It's smaller than the warehouse, Nina said beside her. But it's ours. Really ours. Clara smiled. Smaller is good. We can grow into it. The interior was simple: 6 sewing stations, racks for fabric, a small office in the back. Maria was already inside, measuring windows for curtains. Patricia arrived with her granddaughter, who immediately claimed the corner desk for homework after school. Even Yuki and Shanice had returned, cautiously optimistic, after Clara showed them every document proving the business was funded legally. No more secrets, Clara had promised them. You deserve to know exactly what you're part of. They believed her. More importantly, they'd stayed. Adrian arrived at noon, carrying boxes of lunch from the Italian place down the street. He wore jeans and a sweater, no suit, no bodyguard, just a man bringing food to his wife's business. The transformation had been gradual. First, he'd turned state's evidence against Victor Salas, providing testimony that helped prosecutors build additional RICO charges. Then he'd begun the careful process of dissolving his legitimate businesses, selling properties, unwinding investments. His cooperation with federal authorities had earned him immunity from prosecution, a deal Marcus had negotiated with the precision of a master strategist. You're giving up everything you built, Marcus had warned him. No, Adrian had replied. I'm giving up everything that was built on fear. What I'm building now is better. Now, watching Clara direct her team, watching her create something good in the world, Adrian knew he'd made the right choice. Mr. Lucero, Patricia called from inside. Can you reach that top shelf? We need to store these boxes. Just Adrian, he corrected gently, grabbing the boxes. Mr. Lucero sounds like someone who'd break your kneecaps for a late payment. Patricia laughed, though the joke hit closer to truth than she knew. By evening, the shop was set up. They stood outside as the sun set, painting the storefront in gold and amber light. Grand opening next week, Nina said, checking her phone. We already have 20 orders from a website. Clara, people are actually excited about this. About affordable, well-made clothes for real women? Clara grinned. Shocking. Adrian's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, frowned slightly. Marcus wants to meet for dinner. Says it's important. Go, Clara said. I'll lock up here. He kissed her forehead. I'll be home by 9. Marcus waited at a quiet restaurant in Andersonville, a bottle of wine already opened. Adrian slid into the booth across from him. You look worried, Adrian observed. Because I am, Marcus poured wine for them both. The Bianchis are moving into your old territory. The Riveras are at war with the Yakuza over shipping routes. Chicago's underworld is fracturing without you there to maintain balance. Not my problem anymore. Isn't it? Marcus leaned forward. 16 people dead in the last month from gang violence. The feds are overwhelmed. And both sides keep reaching out to me, asking if you'll come back, mediate, restore order. The answer is no. Adrian. I'm out, Marcus. I made a promise to Clara, and I'm keeping it. Adrian met his oldest friend's eyes. I know you think I'm making a mistake. I know you think I'm abandoning something I built. But that life was killing me slowly. It was killing what I had with Clara. I chose her, and I don't regret it. Marcus studied him for a long moment, then nodded slowly. Then I'm out too. Adrian blinked. What? If you're done, I'm done. I've been in this life for 25 years, Adrian.
I'm tired.
I'm 53 years old, and I don't know my own grandchildren because I'm always looking over my shoulder, he smiled sadly. You gave me permission to walk away. So I'm walking. Marcus, you don't have to. I want to. Marcus raised his glass. To getting out while we still can. To choosing life over power. To letting the next generation make their own mistakes. Adrian clinked his glass against Marcus's. To new beginnings. They drank, two men who'd survived a world that killed most, finally finding their way to something like peace. At 8:47 p.m., Clara was locking the front door of Velvet Line when a woman approached. She was young, maybe 25, wearing clothes that had seen better days and carrying a portfolio. "Excuse me," the woman said nervously. "Are you Clara Evans?" "I am. I saw your interview. The one where you talked about building opportunities for women who just need a chance." She held out her portfolio with shaking hands. "I'm a designer. Self-taught. I can't afford fashion school, but I'm good. I know I'm good. I just need someone to see it." Clara took the portfolio, flipped through sketches that showed raw talent and fierce determination. She saw herself in this young woman, hungry, hopeful, refusing to let circumstance define her. "What's your name?" "Jasmine. Jasmine Torres." "Jasmine, can you start next Monday?" The woman's eyes filled with tears. "Really? Really? We pay fair wages, we train as we go, and we build each other up." Clara handed back the portfolio. "That's what Velvet Line is about.
Seconde chance.
New beginnings." Jasmine hugged her, quick and fierce. "Thank you. Thank you so much." As the young woman walked away, practically floating, Clara felt something settle in her chest. This was what power should feel like. Not fear, not control, but the ability to change someone's life for the better. Adrian found her still standing outside, smiling at nothing in particular. "Good day?" he asked. "The best." She took his hand.
Come on.
"Let's go home." They walked through Lincoln Park as evening deepened into night, just two people among millions, anonymous and free. For the first time in years, neither of them looked over their shoulder. The shadows finally had let them go. 3 months later, Clara received an invitation in the mail. Heavy cardstock, embossed lettering, the kind of expensive stationery that announced importance before you even read the words. "Meridian and Company requests the pleasure of your presence at our spring collection unveiling." Nina looked over her shoulder at the workshop. "Isn't that the boutique where it all started?" Clara turned the invitation over. "Yes. Are you going to go?" Clara stared at the card, remembering that day. The humiliation, the shame, the two saleswomen who judged her worth by her shoes. She remembered Adrian walking in, the fear in everyone's eyes, the way power had solved nothing and broken everything. "Yes," she said finally. "I think I am." The following Saturday, Clara dressed carefully. Not in designer clothes. She still didn't care about labels, but in one of Velvet Line's newest pieces, a dress Jasmine had designed. Simple, elegant, affordable. The kind of dress that made you feel beautiful without apologizing for existing. Adrian offered to come with her, but she shook her head. "This is something I need to do alone." She took a cab to Meridian and Company, watching the city roll past. Chicago looked different now, less threatening, more like home. Or maybe she was different. Maybe surviving had changed her into someone who didn't scare as easily. The boutique was exactly as she remembered. Marble floors, glass displays, the smell of money and vanilla. But the faces were different. New salespeople, younger, diverse, wearing name tags that identified them by preferred pronouns and languages spoken. A woman approached, bright-eyed and professional. "Welcome to Meridian and Company.
I'm Ashley.
Can I help you find something?" "Actually," Clara said, "I'm here to see the manager." "Is Richard Hammond still?" "Mr. Hammond retired last year." "I'm the new manager." Diane Foster, a woman in her 40s, appeared, extending her hand warmly. "And you are?" "Clara Evans." She watched for recognition, waited for judgment. Diane's eyes widened slightly. "Ms. Evans. Of course. I know who you are. I read about Velvet Line in Chicago magazine." Your work empowering women through employment and design is remarkable, she gestured around the boutique. In fact, you're part of why I took this job. Clara blinked. I am. The previous ownership model here was problematic. After the incident 3 months ago and subsequent restructuring, the parent company implemented major changes. I was hired specifically to make this a place where all women feel welcome, regardless of how much money they have or what they're wearing. Diane smiled. We even started a partnership with local design schools and small businesses. Actually, I've been meaning to reach out to Velvet Line about a potential collaboration. Clara felt something tight in her chest begin to loosen. A collaboration? Your designs appeal to working women, our customer base. What if we carried a Velvet Line collection here? Give you access to our foot traffic, give our customers access to beautiful, affordable pieces. Diane pulled out a business card. No pressure, of course. But I think we could do something good together. Clara took the card, running her thumb over the embossed letters. The boutique where she'd been humiliated wanted to partner with her. The universe had a sense of humor. I'd like that, she said. Let's set up a meeting. They talked for 20 minutes about possibilities, about changing the fashion industry from the inside, about making beauty accessible. When they finished, Clara wandered through the store, touching fabrics, examining designs. She found herself in front of the same display where that caramel handbag had sat months ago. A different bag was there now, deep burgundy, simple lines, beautiful. Would you like to try it? Ashley appeared at her elbow. How much? $1,200. The exact same price as before. Clara could afford it now. Velvet Line was profitable, growing, successful. She had the money, the status, the credibility she'd lacked before. But she didn't need the bag anymore. She didn't need to prove anything to anyone. It's beautiful, Clara said honestly, but not today. She walked to the counter where Diane was reviewing inventory and pulled out an envelope she'd prepared before coming. What's this? Diane asked. A donation. For your partnership with design schools, scholarships for students who can't afford tuition. Clara set it down. $2,500. In honor of 2 women who used to work here. I never knew their last names. One was named Jessica. Diane opened the envelope, her eyes widening at the check. Ms. Evans, this is incredibly generous. It's necessary. Clara pulled out a handwritten note from her purse, folded it, placed it on top of the check. Make sure this goes with the donation. Diane read it aloud. Dignity costs nothing. Keep the change. She looked up, tears in her eyes. You're remarkable. No, Clara said quietly. I'm just someone who learned that revenge doesn't heal anything. But kindness? Kindness can change everything. Outside, Adrian waited on the sidewalk, leaning against a lamppost with a quiet smile. Clara had texted him after all. How did it go? Better than I imagined. She took his arm. They want to partner with Velvet Line. Carry our designs. That's incredible. He kissed her temple. I'm proud of you. I'm proud of us. Clara looked back at the boutique one last time. We made it, Adrian. We actually made it out. We did. He pulled her close as they started walking, just 2 people among thousands, heading home through a city that no longer owned them. Where do you want to go now? Clara thought about it, about possibilities stretching ahead like open roads, about a life built on hope instead of fear, about second chances and new beginnings. Forward, she said simply. Let's just keep going forward. And hand in hand, with no shadows left behind them, they did.
The end.